This is Hog Farmer Chris from the Hog Farmers Charitable Foundation. And before you start listening to Red Zone in the Lab, check out our Amazon Smile, a simple way to support the Hog Farmers Charitable Foundation every time you shop, and it's no cost to you.
We're back! Welcome back to Red Zone in the Lab with Deuce.
Welcome back. This is season 3 of Red Zone in the Lab podcast. We are going to be discussing entrepreneurship, education, Black history, health, movies, family, and of course, sports. Please follow, subscribe to our YouTube channel, our Twitter, and our Instagram and Facebook, and also website www.redzoneinthelab.com. Welcome back to Red Zone in the Lab podcast. I am Dion Deuce Blackney, and today, finally, we have Ms Gina, She Talks Football podcast, a very well-known Twitter Spaces host. She is Lamar Jackson's biggest fan, biggest supporter. She don't take no stuff. She don't take any Lamar Jackson slander. I've seen her boot people from her spaces for such slander. Ms. Gina, thank you for
it got to be real slander for that.
How you doing, Ms. Gina? Thank you so much.
I am doing well. You know, it's always a good day if we can talk about the Ravens, bro, and talk about football, period. But talk about the Ravens for sure.
All right, so Ms. Gina, who is Ms. Gina? Before the Ravens fandom, because I've heard some of your stories before. You've talked about how you wasn't always this devoted to football. So who is Ms. Gina prior to football?
Okay. So first of all, thank you so much for having me on. I've been looking forward to it. You know, you're a cool dude in these Twitter streets.
I appreciate
so that. It's a pleasure to be on here. So Lady G or Miss Gina. So let's just explain that. So Lady G is like the person you get when we're just talking ball. You know, we're talking teams. We could be talking quarterbacks. You know, everything is copacetic. We're good. Ms. Gina actually comes out when I hear any Lamar slander or any Raven slander, then Ms. Gina has to come out and she gonna have a thing or two. She's gonna pack some people up. But prior to Lady G, Ms. Gina, I'm actually a registered nurse by trade. And I take care of my mom. I take care of my brother. My mom is handicapped. My brother is special needs. And so I take care of them full time every day. I work from home and I take care of them. So, you know, that takes up a lot of time. So between that and being in these Twitter streets, that's like most of my day other than church. But so yes, as far as my football fandom, obviously, Baltimore did not have a football team once that other team that we're not going to be mentioned, you know, stole away in the middle of the night. And, you know, all of a sudden we didn't have a team for some years. Then fast forward to 1996, we get the Ravens. But it's like we had not had a football team for so long. Mm-hmm. It was just like, yay, we got a football team. Oh, the name's the Ravens. Okay. Somewhere around 1999 is when I really started trying to get into it and get in with my team. And then, of course, around 2000, we won the Super Bowl. But then after that, we let the whole team go practically. I was pissed about that. So I kind of fell off for a few years because I'm like, why do you let a Super Bowl winning team go? I'm baffled. Yeah. And then I just kind of fell back in a few years later. But what really took me off the cliff, though, Deuce, is I started going to the games. And I just want to tell anybody, if you start going to football games, you're going to get in deep. Like, it's just something about the atmosphere. Yeah. Everybody's screaming. You're screaming at the other team. You're banging on chairs. Like, I'm one of those people, I stand up like the whole time at the game. Like, when people sit down, I'm mad because it almost forces me to sit down because I'm blocking people's view. But I'm like, what are we sitting down for?
Look, I tell you, like, if go to a Titans game in Tennessee
Right.
We went the year before COVID when we went down there and played. They literally stand up the entire time, unless it's like a commercial break or in
Right.
between quarters. Once the quarter starts back or once they come back
Right.
from break, they just stand up. So literally the whole stadium stands up the entire time of the game.
I like that. So yeah, that's me. So I was standing the whole time. I'm screaming the whole time. I actually saw a picture that my friend sent to me. They caught me on television at a game. We're all standing, but everybody else's mouth is closed and mine is like wide open. And they're like, well, why is your mouth open? I don't know. I'm screaming the whole time. What can I tell you? So that's when my fandom really went to another level. And then I was like just all Ravens, and then it just bled into just football, period. So now I just love football. I love the NFL. I love the different teams. I want to talk about the different teams. I want to, learn about the different teams, but I always want to talk about the Ravens.
Ain't nothing wrong with that. So let's get into the Ravens. What are your let's talk about last season a little bit. The end of last season. What was your take on last season, and was that just an anomaly?
Yes, well, I'm praying there was an anomaly. We had a similar injury season back in 2015 where we lost most of our starters, including our quarterback. So that was 6 years ago. So I'm really hoping that with the changes they made, that last season really was an anomaly. But yeah, we started off the season, like going into the season, we were excited. Like I really felt like that was a Super Bowl contending team last season. I really did. I thought we were going to coming off that 2019 and even 2020, even though there was COVID and all that kind of stuff. We really, and I'm glad I was the only one. I even heard Ravens players talking about, we thought we were really going to be contending, but then it started with Justice Hill, which was in the offseason. He went down. And then literally our players just started dropping like flies. And when we lost 2 players in practice within 2 plays, that's when Gus went down and Marcus Peters back-to-back plays. That stunned me, like stunned.
Wow.
Like I was sitting there for a few minutes like, what?
Didn't Harbaugh end practice after that?
Yes, that was it. Yeah, he did. He ended practice. And then we lost JK in the preseason game. No, I'm sorry. We lost JK in the preseason game, and then we lost Gus and Marcus Peters in practice. And it just seems like it was a domino effect from there. So Ravens fans, and probably rightly so, we have PTSD, bro. We have PTSD. Yeah. Like some people have literally been holding their breath this entire offseason that we're in now, training camp. People have been holding their breath. I'm trying not to do that because I want to breathe. So I'm like, there's no point in me. It's football. It's a violent game. People are going to get hurt. But as long as they're doing as much as they can to mitigate those injuries, and it seems like they've done that. But last year was devastating. But with Lamar Jackson, the great 8, him, QB1, even with all those injuries, he still had us in there. Like we were leading the AFC for several weeks. We were leading the AFC and the AFC North for several weeks last season, even with all the injuries. And we were literally dropping players and they were going to IR every game practically. Yeah. But then once he dropped out, I knew the season was completely over. It was no way. I didn't expect us to lose like literally the rest of the season. I thought we might. Well, we won the Chicago Bears game on the last play. After that, we lost every game, but we didn't have QB1.
Yeah, some tough losses. So looking at this year, barring any injuries, of course.
Yes, Lord.
What is the expectations for the Ravens?
So call me a homer or not. Again, my expectation is we're going to the Super Bowl and we're going to win. But this is why I say that. So number one, we got QB1 back, Timothy, him. He's healthy. He's actually put on some more muscle. He looks good, right? He looks good. He's a little swole. He was up there working out with Spence Fit and whatnot. So he's looking good. So anytime you got QB1, there's always your opportunity there. I feel like the team going into this season is really the best team that we've had so far since he's been on the team. As far as the entire team, I feel like this will be the best team that he's ever played with since he's been on the Ravens. So that's why I can say that our defense, I expect to be top 3. I honestly expect our defense to be top 3 this season. That secondary, our secondary is a beast. Projected, you know, with who we brought back, who we picked up in free agency, and who we drafted. They addressed the O-line. That was a very big problem last year, Deuce. Very big problem with our O-line. We have depth on our O-line now. And then our receivers, you know, you're in the Twitter streets with us. People want to try to drag us and say, well, who's your receivers? Who's your receivers? First of all, the receivers that we have going into this season overall are better than the ones we've had previously overall. I know we lost Hollywood Brown, and I would have loved to have had Hollywood Brown here with us with Bateman going into the season and Mark Andrews. That would have been a nice little trio right there. But, you know, Hollywood had to, you know, he exercised autonomy and agency and made decisions that was best for him and his career and his body. And I'm not mad at it. I hope that the dude does well over there. But one of our other wide receivers that we have, they will step up. I don't know if it's going to be Wallace, Prochet, or Duvernay, but one of them will step into that wide receiver 2. Obviously, we got Bateman as wide receiver 1, and we have Andrews. And then that dude Likely is like that. From what we're seeing, Likely is like that. He's really a wide receiver. I mean, he's in as a tight end, but he was originally a wide receiver that they switched to tight end because of his size. So I think he's going to be that, whether you want to call him the other tight end on the other side of Andrews, which is what they call him, Baby Andrews. That's exciting. You're calling him Baby Andrews? Okay, I like the sound of that. Or the wide receiver. So out. And don't forget our running game, our running backs, their weapons. So we have weapons. So please stop with that, who y'all receivers. We have weapons. We're a run-first defense.
That's going to be very important. And you know, depending on which, like, you know, I mess with you with the Spider-Man meme with all
right.
Like I tell people all the time, there are 4 Raven fan bases. So it just kind of depends which one you want to go into.
But put us out there in the streets like that.
But all of you guys, especially with me, all you guys is cool, man. What about Greg Roman? There's a divide with Greg Roman. Some people say that, you know, it's Lamar is the reason why he's not opening up the playbook. Some people say it's Greg Roman. What's your take on Greg Roman? Do you think it's going to be any different than what it was in previous years?
So I do think it's going to be, let me put it to you this way. I do think the playbook is going to be opened up. We had to do more passing plays last season because we didn't have the running game that we normally have. And Lamar did great. So there's no reason like to regress in that area. So I absolutely expect that the passing game is going to be opened up, but not just because of Giro. I think us bringing in T. Martin, Keith Williams, and Kerry Dixon, like it was a reason why you brought those 3 people in. You're not just paying them for nothing. Right. So the improvement that we've seen with our wide receivers, and I think with our passing game, I think they contributed to that, and I think we'll see more of their contribution going into this season. I do expect our passing game to be opened up. Giro's offense is Giro's offense. So let me just say this. We know what Giro's offense is one that is tight end centric. Everything is predicated on a run, you know, and you have these run schemes, and that's what it is. That is the offense that we're going to run. So as a Ravens fan, I'm not going to sit up here and say, I just hate it, I hate it, I hate it. Like, I'm not going to root against my team. My team is the offense that I have. I'm not going to root against Giro. He is my OC. So I need for this man to be successful. But one of the things that gave me some hope is during this offseason, they re-upped for Giro's offense. So if you're going to run this offense, give the man the personnel to be able to run this offense. You know what I'm saying? So they did that. They clearly, after the draft, you can see that they clearly re-upped the personnel that are needed to run Giro's offense. So I'm good because the man's offense is not going to work if he does not have the people there to run his offense. So I went through my fire Giro, times this offseason. I did. There are going to be some tweets of me saying that or hashtagging it or something. But at this point, I am at the acceptance stage of the stages of grieving that we've gone through as a Ravens fan this offseason. And I'm like, if we're going to roll with it, that one thing we do know, his offense can get you to the Super Bowl, right? It can get you there. He's been there before.
Yep, we do know that
with the Niners, with Kapler. So Kaepernick. I'm sorry, boo Kaepernick. So we know it can get you there. They didn't quite get over the hump, but they went up against the Ravens, right? That's who they lost against. So I feel like with his offense, more so with Lamar Jackson, who is obviously the most dynamic quarterback that G-Ro has ever had. So I do believe he is making his offense look better than what it actually is. And so with Lamar, that defense and his offense, you know, we should be fine. I'm only concerned about situational play calling. I do have concerns about 3rd and 4th down calls and situational play calling, but I'm just believing God that that part is going to be together too going into the season.
Red Zone in the lab. Be right back.
So I want you all to go check out You Grow Girl. That's Grow, Grow, written by a dear friend of mine, Jay Smith. It's for daily affirmations for Black women. It is filled with beautiful, colorful images of Black women and powerful affirmations. You can find it at Amazon at Amazon.com.
Welcome back to Red Zone in the lab with Deuce.
Give me a couple players on offense other than the ones we know, and maybe someone that may have shined last year, or like a draft pick, or you know, someone that was on the roster but may get more opportunities this year because Hollywood is gone. Give me a couple spotlight players that you can kind of give us that's going to contribute more than what we can expect.
Okay, well, the obvious one is Bateman. I don't have to get deep into that. Hollywood had about 143 targets last season. I would suspect that Bateman should get about 90 to 100 of those at least, I would think. And I think the other ones are going to be spread out without other wide receivers and possibly likely and stuff like that. But I really do expect Bateman to get about 100 of those targets at least, which will leave that dude with clearly probably about 1,100 yards and about 10, I would suspect 10 touchdowns. I would also say on offense, please, Lord, let JK be straight. Nobody really knows how much of a loss JK going down was for us last season. And we have no way of proving it because it didn't happen. But I'm telling you, JK was going to kill last season. JK Dobbins, our running back, who, you know, went down with, I think he had an ACL and a partial PCL. He was the one that got injured playing the Commanders.
I shouldn't have had him in there.
There's no rule that said you can't get your starters out there for a few players, and then one of y'all players' helmets decide to just go right into his knee. Yeah, and took my man out. J.K. Dobbins was expected to kill it. They were looking for him to get 1,300 yards last season. I'm not even exaggerating. And he probably would have had 10 to 12 touchdowns. He was going to be doing more. Taking more receptions out the backfield. Dude, I mean, that first season, his rookie year, even with us being a running back by committee on our team, that dude, and he wasn't even the starter for every game. And he shared some of that with Mark Ingram and Gus Edwards. And dude still had 800 and something yards and 9 touchdowns. And that's with running back by committee. So he was going to kill it last season. So that was huge. So assuming that he gets back to 100%, I am definitely expecting good things, huh?
What's his injury status? He started on PUP, right?
Yeah, he's raring to go. He's chomping at the bit. Apparently from coach, they're just waiting for clearance from the doctors to let him back. But he is chomping at the bit to get back on the field. So I expect him to possibly be out there week 1, maybe. But maybe a few weeks in, but obviously going to start off with limited snaps. But that's why we went and picked up the other, running backs that we did, because both of our guys went down. So that's offensively. Let me see. Oh, Linderbaum, our center. I expect him to get the job done. And I am hearing great things about him. And so I'm really looking forward to Linderbaum doing his job. When an offensive lineman is doing their job right, you're not going to hear their name. So that's what I'm looking for.
On the defensive side, you all drafted Kyle Hamilton, and it was a lot of smoke down here, down this side of 295, that a lot of our fan base wanted to get Kyle Hamilton.
Okay.
What was your initial thought with that pick in the first round?
Okay, well, to be honest, I don't really watch college ball, but I learned a great deal about the players over this offseason because of Twitter Spaces. I was able to get in there with all of these, what they call college ball gurus who's just giving a rundown on all the players in the draft. So I actually knew more about the college players going into this draft than I ever have because of Twitter Spaces. So obviously Ravens did not expect Kyle Hamilton to be there at 14. That was very surprising. So when we got him, it was like, I mean, we knew it. Once he was still on the board and we got to 14, we knew that that's what they were going to do. I believe if Kyle Hamilton wasn't there, we were going for a wide receiver right there. I really do. There were a couple of wide receivers that they had on their board, and we didn't get them. So I think teams went up and got those guys. So having Kyle Hamilton, I'm looking forward to seeing this dude on the field. I know everybody tried to drag out that one little clip from that one-on-one at that game. Like, that's so silly. That wasn't even a real situation for him as far as the position he plays, right? So yeah, he's been killing it. I'm super excited about Kyle. Travis Jones, the D lineman, super excited about him. We're hearing nothing but great things. Like, he is a literal freak. Like, people seem to be surprised for as big as he is, the way that he can move. So we're hearing
that was my concern. That was my concern with him was his size, how he was trying to used last year. But that's the same with Jordan Davis.
Right.
But the combine and the pro days, it proves that they are mobile and they are nimble for big guys. So I think
I was a fan of Jordan Davis going into the draft after the combine. I became a fan of Jordan Davis.
Yeah.
I did.
Yeah, because the thing about Georgia, they had like a 6 or 7 man rotation on the D line. So they didn't ask him to rush the passer because they didn't need him to. They had other guys to do it.
Right.
Did you watch? I don't say did you watch? I'm quite sure. How was the stream practice? How did that look as far as the defense is concerned?
Okay, so I want to say on the practice, of course, a lot of stuff, because there were no pads or anything, they couldn't really go hard. So we've actually heard more about the practices that we've had this week now that pads are on and stuff like that. Obviously, that's not all being streamed, so we're just seeing clips. So you couldn't really see but so much in the practice that they streamed because it was, no pads, not going to have a lot of contact. So it really, I would say, featured more of what the offensive players could do more so than the defensive players. So that was really what you got out of watching that, but you can't really fault the defense for that because that really wasn't the time for them because they couldn't get physical with them at all. And, so I would say you weren't able to really glean a lot. You probably were able to look at more of what was going on our offensive line. Who was on there, who they were rotating out, and our receivers, and maybe a little bit of how they're setting up the plays, the schemes. But to me, that's more so what you were able to get out of the camp that was streamed.
Yeah, Marcus Peters has also started on PUP, right? He started on PUP too.
Yeah. He's
Marcus Peters.
Yeah.
What's his status? Because I think he's going to be a big part of that secondary coming together. Because as we know, the North have receivers, and it's going to be very important for him to be out there.
So yeah, he's still on the PUP list. I do think that he might be ready week 1. We haven't heard anything differently. So yeah, I'm looking forward to him being back out on the field. Marlowe was good to go. Marlowe has been out there. Marlon Humphreys, he's been good to go. He's completely healthy. Definitely want to see Marcus Peters out there alongside. That will be great. If not, we do have Kyle Fuller. So we did pick up Kyle Fuller. So if he'll be out there if Peters isn't out there. And we still have Brandon Stevens, which we all believe that he's going to be switched from safety to corner this season. We think Brandon Stevens is going to be switched from safety to corner. And so we can have some depth. And we got Jayla Armour Stevens. That dude we think is going to be, and we got Pepe, like we got depth, bro. We got
I got secondary depth. That's no doubt.
yeah, and we need that. We need that. And y'all know we're deep in safeties with Kyle Hamilton, with Marcus Williams that we picked up off from free agency from the Saints. And we still got Clark out there. So, and I'm missing another safety, but yeah, we have some depth in the DBs and we really, really need that. So I think we're going to carry about 9 or 10 DBs going into the season very easily.
When it comes to the Ravens as a whole, what's your record projection for them this year?
Okay. So my floor is 11-6.
Okay.
And my ceiling is, I've been saying 13-4. I feel like we could either go 14-3, but I'll say 11-6 to 13-4. If we fall out around 12-5, that should be cool. That should be enough to definitely get us a wild card and hopefully win the division.
Yeah.
But we know it's a fight in our division, which will likely be between, now we know that Deshaun was suspended for 6 games. So he'll be coming back week 7, which ironically is against the Ravens. That's when the Browns play the Ravens, week 7. So with him only being suspended 6 games, that clearly puts the Browns, I believe, back in contention for the division, because, we're not going to sit up here and act like Deshaun Watson is not a great quarterback. Yeah. I am literally just talking football, y'all. I'm not talking anything off the field. I'm just talking football. Right? Please, let's have that straight. So on the field, that dude is a great football player, quarterback. So him coming to the Browns with the type of roster that they have, that definitely puts them back in the contention. So I believe the AFC North is wide open, but I'm still going the Ravens going to win the division, right?
Yeah, of course you are.
But it's wide open.
What's your biggest threat in the division?
Well, here's the thing, Deuce. I know everybody wants me to say the Bengals because they swept us last year, but I'm not going to say that's the case. We had half a team on the field, and obviously the DBs is where we were the most shallow. Yeah. And going up against a team that has a prolific offense like the Bengals, obviously we were going to get smashed. So I think all 3 of the teams are you can say something. So obviously you got the offense on the Bengals, right? I think on the Steelers, you got their defense, and they have what seems to be some great receivers, right? They got that Pickens over there, Calvin Austin Jr., and you got, Clay Chase Poole is still there, Deontay Johnson is still there, and they got some more. So they got some wide receivers for your tail. And they got that great defense. And I think people keep forgetting about Brian Flores being on the staff over there. So I do think we'll see some of his influence. He's not the DC, but I think we may see some of his influence. And, obviously they got TJ Watt, they got Cam Hayward, they got Mika Fitzpatrick. So they got some defense. And I think we are overshadowing that defense with the fact that they got Mitch Trubisky or Kenny Pickett. But I'm just like, it's for them. For me, it's not about them. It's about the team that they're on and the coach that they have with Mike Tomlin, who's never had a losing season. And then going to the Browns, again, we're not going to act like having Deshaun Watson on that Browns team is not making that team formidable. I mean, that team has been like a Super Bowl contending team on paper for several years now. Yeah, they just couldn't quite get it together in the QB part.
They have really been missing. The quarterback has been missing from that team for about years now.
So it's going to be a fight. It is going to be a fight. It is definitely going to be a fight.
What's your sale on the Ravens winning the Super Bowl? Like if I say, Ms Gina, give me a sale and I'll make sure you all win, what would be your pitch? Why would they win the Super Bowl?
So the Ravens are going to win the Super Bowl for 3 reasons. Number 1, we have QB1, the great 8, Lamar Jackson. That dude is a phenomenon. He is, although there have been other mobile QBs that are in the league currently, have been in the league prior to him, I totally believe that he is the greatest of those mobile or dual threat QBs. He is a weapon on your team in and of itself. and we're the only team that has Lamar Jackson. So I think that he's the number one reason why we can win this Super Bowl, and he is hungry for it. He wants it. Number two, I'm going to say, is that defense. We all say defense wins championships. Well, we got that defense coming in this season. I believe with Mike McDonald, our current new DC, who's there, it seems like he likes to put his players in a position to win, right? Put them in the best position to bring out the best for them. He likes to disguise some of the schemes and things like that and keep the offense off base. These are things that, he said. He likes to change up his defense depending on the offense that we're playing. Like, these were all great things to my ears that I heard. So if he's able to do that, what he's saying, our defense should be top three, and probably not 2 or 3, but definitely top 3. I would say the third reason is that offensively, we are looking good. Obviously, with Mark Andrews, likely cannot say enough about Isaiah Likely, along with Bateman, who's going to be killing it, our wide receiver 1, and whoever our other wide receivers are. Our running game is going to be back intact. We didn't have that last year. We picked up running backs off the street. So our running game will be back, and that is a compliment to our total offense. And I would say this reason also, the Ravens, not only are we out for vengeance in terms of this being a revenge year and the comeback year, we also have the sorrow and the pain behind us losing our quarterback last season, having all those injuries last season, losing the rest of the games like we did last season. You know what I'm saying? Something that is unprecedented. Mm-hmm. The Ravens have never lost 5 or 6 games in a row ever since their existence. And then aside from that, may rest in peace, Tony Siragusa, we know, who was a big part of our 2000 defense that was like shut down, one of the greatest defenses of all time, passed away. And on the same day, we lost Jalen Ferguson, rest in peace, who was a current player. He was currently on the team and was expecting to come in and really do some things this season. So I'm saying that the Ravens have been through adversity. We've been through sorrow. We've gone through some things that have been unprecedented. And all of that combined with the one mind that this team has right now, the one mind and determination, they are focused. The things that they're doing are purposeful, and everything is towards winning a Super Bowl. Every player on that team wants to win the Super Bowl. And when you have a team with one mind and galvanized by all of those things that I just named, along with all of the other football reasons that I've given you, offensive and defensively, that team can indeed go and win the Super Bowl this season.
Red Zone in the lab. Be right back.
There's a lot of bad stigma about shopping for a used car. Well, come visit us at iCargo Motors. We'll take care of you. We'll ensure that your experience is not only seamless and efficient, but also satisfying. Because at iCargo Motors, we believe that the best form of currency is integrity.
Welcome back to Red Zone in the lab with Deuce.
Twitter Spaces.
Yes.
Twitter Spaces.
Yeah.
NFL Twitter Spaces. What does Twitter Spaces mean to you? So, NFL Twitter Spaces.
So Twitter Spaces are so much fun. It is one thing to get on Twitter and type back and forth and get in group chats, but to be able to get into a space and actually hear people give their takes, give their reasons, go back and forth, argue, shut people down, pack people up, as we say, say stuff like, what are y'all even saying right now? Or saying, what are y'all even saying right now? Or what are we doing right now in here? Or are you crazy? And some of the language can get foul. Like, you just cannot. It is just one of the most fun things, and Deuce, going into this season and actually having Twitter Spaces to go in and talk about before the games and after the games, it is going to take fandom to another level. It's going to take NFL for the fans to a completely different level. So I am because you're going to get to go in there and brag, and you're going to have to come in there with your tail between your legs because you talked all that smack, and your team Deuce and your team lost. You're not going to be able to get away, and you can't stay out of spaces because then you're going to be a coward, right? So you're going to have to come in and take your licks. So yeah, Twitter Spaces is huge for me. It has been like a great outlet for me. I told you I stay home, I take care of my mom and my brother. You know, I work from home, and it has been such an outlet because of the pandemic, I actually have not gone to any football games for the last 2 seasons because I have to protect my family. So I have to be extra precautious. So being able to get in Twitter Spaces and just talk football all day long, it is amaze balls for me. Yeah, so I like to run Twitter Spaces, either Ravens Flock Spaces, where it's like all Ravens, or just regular NFL Spaces where all fans come in, because I've learned more about the other teams
Yep.
from being in Twitter Spaces, because you got fans to come in there and talk to you about their players, maybe some of the players that you don't hear about on ESPN or on NFL Network and all of that. You know, they're only going to talk about certain players, but now I get to hear more about, you know, the other players on your line and the second and third stringers and what you have for depth, and more info about the offense and the defense that you're running, the changes that you think are going to be coming up, more about your coaching staff. Like, it is very educational and is extremely fun. And sometimes you can take it a little seriously. You know, I ain't gonna lie, because when I'm up here defending the slander of my quarterback, it is not a game for me. It is not a game. It's not a game. But at the same time, when it's over, is over. And when I'm off Twitter Spaces, I'm not walking around the house fuming or anything like that. So it's entertainment. It's great entertainment, but don't slander me.
I feel the same way. And one thing I learned is that this whole movement with Draymond Green kind of being the front person for the whole quote unquote new media. There are a lot of people, and you included, on Twitter Spaces that can actually talk the talk, right? They can actually do this at a level where they should be getting compensated. And they're just regular fans doing this for free. And there are a lot of content creators also that's doing it. That was the biggest surprise for me when it comes to Twitter Spaces, is the ability for regular fans to be able to put out content,
right,
that we do all the time, but now there's a platform for us to do it. And on multiple platforms, different fan bases, they have had media come in and be guests, just as well as your show, our show. And I'm beginning to call them shows. Once you start developing a brand,
right,
I look at it as a show, right?
Agreed.
That's how I look at it from the different fan bases, because it's, you have your certain hosts that come in, and the title is always the same, and they always have great content. And then you have just chill spaces, like you say, just NFL talk spaces. But these shows are very beneficial to me, just like you were saying, to learn about different fan bases and learn about different players, and the teams are there, whether you know that's them or not. I believe they have burners, and they are looking, because of the fact that I think this is going into a direction where it's going to be noticed.
Right.
You have different players and media people and executive doing Twitter Spaces.
Right.
They don't open it up to speakers, but they're in Twitter Spaces. So,
right.
So I mean, where do you think this can go? How far do you think this can go?
Yeah, I actually think it's huge. And so getting on Twitter Spaces and building up a brand and, holding spaces, like, I think that's huge. Because honestly, and I've had multiple people say it, they were like, you know what? I don't even really watch ESPN and NFL and all that stuff anymore.
Yep.
I learned more getting in these Twitter Spaces and talking to the other fans. And I mean, it's true. I lie not. I can't tell you the last time I've watched one of those. I am literally in Twitter Spaces all the live long day, talking to fans. So yeah, I think it's huge, and I think they're recognizing it. And so you see some of them actually doing spaces themselves, like you said. Some of the former NFL players, they'll drop into our spaces and have conversations with us, which is amazeballs. I love that. And I hope more of them do it. But yeah, they'll definitely, I was in a space where my dude Phoenix on Twitter was doing a space about, he has him in tears, and he was doing cornerbacks. And actually Jalen Ramsey dropped into his space to say that he should be in tier 1 and explain why he should be in the tier 1 of this breakdown of the cornerbacks.
Now, how does he know that they're talking about that at that time in spaces? Either
Because
he
I
has a
think,
burner or someone he knows
right,
has a burner.
right.
Here and there. Yep.
They're seeing it show up because he dropped in. We've had Brian McFadden drop in our spaces. Damian Woody does it frequently. Tony Coverton is the one that we've seen drop in. There's a few more. Sarah Ellison, who is she works in media, not formally with the Ravens, but around the Ravens. She was formerly.
Mm-hmm.
Kadri Ismail drops into spaces. And they've actually Sarah and Kadri and Jeff Srebeck. I've actually been able to have some spaces, with having them come in and talk to the flock. So I'm hoping to, get more and more content like this.
Yep.
Yeah, I think Twitter Spaces is going to be even more huge. It ramped up, but with the season about to start, we probably will be seeing 30, 40, 50 spaces like just going across our screen and just trying to figure out like what space do you want to get into. But I do think eventually, I do think some people are already having sponsored spaces and being compensated. I do think that is already happening with some people, but I do think that is definitely up and coming.
Yeah, I believe that too. You have your, and it's like, I'm trying to fit in, where I fit in.
Trying to get in where we can fit in, right?
Yeah, because I believe there's space, like there's room for all of us here.
I agree.
Like my down the line goes to be able to. Why can't we have a network? Like why can't we have a full day where shows have different blocks throughout the day, like ESPN? We should be able to do that too,
right?
So before we end, let's talk about She Talks Football podcast. Where did that come from? Where are you with that? How did you get into podcasting?
Okay. So again, just all about football. I was originally on Clubhouse talking about football, which was actually out before Twitter Spaces was. Actually, the first audio app like that was Clubhouse. And then Twitter created Spaces and, just kind of jumped over here, started checking it out. And it was just much more easier to engage because everybody in sports, they're on Twitter. So it was very easy to engage there. So, I'm having conversations like, dude, I just like to sit around and talk about football. Like, this is what I like to do. So it was like, well, maybe you could do a podcast. And it's like, well, no, because I don't think I know enough to do a podcast and, this, that, and the other. And it's like, I finally figured out you don't have to know everything about football to talk about football.
That's right.
You don't. And some of the people that are thinking that they know everything, they actually don't either. So there are all different levels to this fandom. But I just enjoy talking about football. And to me, that is all you need to do. There are different types of podcasts out there, right? So if you want a podcast where they're really getting into X's and O's and breaking down film, you have those podcasts out there. There are other podcasts out there, they're just goofing around. And, you have some that are kind of like in between. We talking ball, we're having fun. So there's space for everybody. So although I was a little nervous, it's like, what you like, you're doing something that you like to do. Won't you just go ahead and do it? My friends had to push me along. They literally had to be like, look, just sit there and record something for 5 or 10 minutes. Like, go and do it. Stop procrastinating, because I was scared. And now I just like, I love to do podcasts. I love to do my own podcast. I love the guest on podcasts. So it's actually, for me, it's an honor and pleasure. Anytime anybody asks you to be on that podcast, like, that's cool. So my podcast is She Talks Football, and it's on YouTube. So that's one place you can find my content. You can find also my content on the Undroppables platform, because I'm actually a part of the Undroppables creative content platform, which is actually with a focus of fantasy football. So it's hardcore fantasy football stuff on the Undroppables, from facts and stats and player props, like betting, like everything, injuries, what you need to know, all kinds of leagues, like literally everything you need for fantasy football. You guys have to go follow the Undroppables. So my content is over there also. I have more of an NFL focus. So whereas most of them, they do everything around fantasy, my focus is around NFL football, the players, the games, and the issues related to the NFL, all kinds of stuff that happens, some stuff that's not so nice. I like to talk about all those things. So you can find my content on the Undroppables on YouTube and also on Twitter. And you can find my stuff on my YouTube channel, She Talks Football.
Ms Gina, Lady G, that is her. We appreciate you taking the time to jump in with us today and talking about Twitter Spaces.
Yep.
I have one at 4:30, but I do appreciate you for coming on today. It was a pleasure. I've been trying to get you on for a while. I'm glad you took the opportunity.
Yeah, dude.
To
You
come
know
on.
why? I told you why.
I know. That ain't for all them though.
Yeah, everybody got to know, but you know, it's a thing.
Yeah, I appreciate you, Ms. Gina.
I appreciate you. Thank you so much. You know, we're going to see y'all in a few weeks in that preseason game, bro. I hope y'all not taking that game too seriously. Please don't take that game that seriously. We do not want to walk away with an injury from that game.
Yeah, we had a lot too, so I doubt it. I doubt it. But there you have it. She Talks Football podcast host. That is Ms. Gina, these Twitter space hosts. You can find her out here in these Twitter streets with the Ravens. Appreciate you again. Appreciate all you out there for listening. Thank you for watching. This is Red Zone in the Lab podcast. I am Dion Deuce Blackney. One beat, one sound, one heart, one love.
Thank you for listening to Red Zone in the Lab podcast. Please follow us on Facebook and Instagram. Subscribe to our YouTube channel at Red Zone in the Lab. And you can download our podcast at Spotify, iTunes, and Podbean. And please visit our website at redzoneinTheLab.com. Thank you.